So this will take us to the YouTube page, and I'll show you the other trick that I use as well that is just really handy. I've got a playlist. We've talked about YouTube playlists a little bit before, but so this is the live video now, and what I do is I hit save to Obvio Q&A calls, and that's it. And what that does is it's added this video to the playlist, and that playlist is on the dashboard. So if we go here, I'll show you this. This is the dashboard of the event that we're in right now, and that's the video. And this is Obvio Q&A February 5. So because I added it to the playlist, it appears I didn't have to do anything to add that directly there. So anyway, that was a question that wasn't asked, but it was me just working through going live. So to answer the question about getting to 5 Zoom meetings. So, Obvio, it's an interesting story with Obvio because we work on both extremes of size of events. So we're working on most people are working in one Zoom room, one Zoom meeting. And so they can have up to 1,000 people in that meeting. Now, often when you're thinking about, I want to do breakout rooms. So we remember that you can have 100 breakout rooms in Zoom, which means if you had 1,000 people, you'd have 10 people in each group, which is often too much. It's too many for an effective small group panel breakout room discussion, which is why we tend to sort of run our Zoom meetings at about 400, 500, 600 maybe, so that when you do breakout rooms, you'll break into groups of 5 or 6, 5. So 4 or 5 is a good breakout room. Often depends on your content and the purpose of the breakout room, but generally that's the case. So therefore, if you had 1,000 people coming to your event, congratulations. And also, you might want to break into 2 separate Zoom meetings so that you have 500 in each breakout room in each Zoom meeting. And so in Obvio, we call that an area, a Zoom area, and Zoom rooms within the area. So an area is like a stadium, and then the Zoom room or the Zoom meeting is like a section of that stadium. And so that's how we've built out Obvio to scale, so that we can do events with 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 people, which we have. The question was, how do you get your audio and video into Zoom, into those 5 distinct Zoom meetings? And there are lots of different ways. There's software and hardware. I tend to lean towards hardware, unless I'm doing cloud production. But let's just talk about it from a hardware point of view. The way that I would do it is I want some sort of capture device, a video capture device on each computer. I'd have 5 computers. I'd have a video capture device on each one of those, and I'd have some sort of mixer or vision switcher that has at least 5 outputs. Those 5 outputs go as a camera input to each one of those computers. And now you've got the same audio and video going into each one of those 5 computers. And then the audio, you handle in the same way. You can have an audio capture device and have that going into each one of the computers, or you're embedding the audio in the video on the HDMI. So where a lot of extra complexity comes into, and I won't go into it, but at this point, but where extra complexity comes is when you want someone to be able to talk from room 3 and be able to be heard in all the other 4 rooms. And then someone be able to talk back from room 1 and talk to someone who's in room 3. It's much more complex to be able to set that up, because you're having to set up what's called a mix minus for each one of those. And that's a complex setup. So it's not for the faint of heart. If you have a need to have 5 meetings going, then I'd be looking to have make sure you have the budget to be able to employ a team that is familiar with doing that and have a setup to do it. My company in Australia does that, so we do that all the time. And then people like Muddy and Justin and other people are also familiar with doing those sorts of things. So that's what I would do. Is use people that have done it a lot. Cool. Next question, Heather.
Clara, I saw you posted that you can't check into this upcoming event. If you check the Zoom chat, I posted the link that you need, which I assume is for the TVE event. I would use that to try to get in. You're muted if you were just trying to say something.
Has anybody else had problems? I've tried 4 different times. And each time I get to the part where I sign the agreement, I can't get past that. I click and it won't let me go.
That's interesting.
I was having problems with it, but that's because it was trying to log into Maestro from the ITS system. So I had to cancel that. Didn't allow me to go through.
Well, I'm doing it again right now as we're speaking.
I also had that problem too, but it was because I didn't record my telephone number. When I put my phone number in and then press the generate, it worked.
I don't recall it asking for my phone number.
Yeah, it asks for your number.
It does.
Yes.
It says, well, I'm looking at the virtual event on virtual events check-in, step 1. How much are you currently generating in your business annually? So I checked. Which best describes, your cell number down here.
Yes.
Same thing happened with me, Claire.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. I'm not an idiot.
You're not the only one.
Okay, I'm so glad to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
But wait a second. Now, step 2, complete my check-in. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I missed it. Thank you so much. That
No
was the problem.
Yeah. No problem.
I was just going to check that too, because is there an all access event or a session tonight? Is that what's happening? No. Yes.
I see that there's check.
I'm getting mixed response. Just check in, is it?
Yes.
I think so. I see an all access room that's open in there, so maybe.
Yeah, so did I. That's what I was thinking. I feel like it's something I should know, but
Well,
no, there's no reference to it, I don't think. So that's all right. So yeah, it's just checking people getting checked in. So no problems. All right. Another question.
we don't have any. Is something happening in your background, Grant?
Sorry, I do have I've got my door open and just had a bunch of birds fly over.
Okay.
They're birds. They're not humans. No one's being attacked.
Okay. Just wonderful. No, at the moment we don't have any other questions I've been putting.
I have a question. This is Juanita again. Will my camera come on again? Hopefully not. My question is, I noticed that Obvio takes a little while to load up when I'm actually going through the steps. Can you tell me how I can prevent that?
When you're going through the steps, as in when you're in the admin and you're building out the site, yes, or as an attendee, when you're building it out?
Yes, when I'm building it out.
Yeah. Yeah. So there is, it's quite a complicated application as far as the editor goes, and so it does take a decent amount of internet. So it's good to have a good internet connection. and also the computer that you're using, because it's having to render all of this, all of the editor and the different functions of it and setting it all through. So I don't tend to have a problem at all. And so one thing that I do is I'm on an Ethernet connection, so I'm not using Wi-Fi, and that just can help. And so I connect directly to my modem. The other thing is that on a slower computer, I tend to have everything else as much as I can closed down, so that the only thing that's really working is my browser. And then I don't tend to have any problems. So if you're finding that it's slow, there's two things: there's internet and computer. And so I would try different internet, as in you can just test this idea, right? Like sometimes even hotspotting to your phone and seeing if that's any different can be interesting. And then the other thing is just trying it on another computer, friend's computer or whatever, and just see if you have the same experience. And because then you might start to work out, whether it's one of those things. But it's not instant by any means. So there is a little bit of wait there, but it shouldn't be too much. So I just play around with that a little bit and see what you think.
I think you just gave me what the issue is. I probably have too many tabs open. I don't think it is the internet. I probably have too many tabs open, and I'm using my tablet. So that may be what it is. Okay, that helps me. Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome. Okay. Anything else? Any other questions? I have been thinking that we've been getting to a point now where we're not getting as many questions. And so probably I want to prepare a bit more for it, but I'll start doing some little walkthroughs of features and things on these calls, just to get people familiar with some of those things. So great. Clarity checked in. Awesome. So yeah, I'll start doing that. But if there is any suggestions for tips, that, as in things that you would like walkthroughs of or extra information on, then please share that. I'll be happy to hear that. So any other questions? Hey, Franklin.
Hey, how are you? Always good.
It's good to see you.
Always good to see you. When I thought about getting on the call, I said to myself, this is going to sound a little strange, but I don't even know what I don't even know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. But I think to your question, it might be good just to have a standard, just a quick overview of how you get in the dashboard, set up your thing, something like that, just the basics. Because I know, sometimes I get distant from, engagement. And so I had to try to remember the things. And I've worked with it before, but, there's constantly updates, upgrades, changes that unless you stay consistent with it, you don't know. So.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah. I think that I think you make a great point, and I think it really is the reason that people come along is not necessarily that have questions, but I don't know the question to ask, but I'm bound to learn something if I hang around. And so, yep. And so that's cool. And I totally get that. And I think what we like hearing is questions not necessarily about, it doesn't have to be about the tool itself, but what is something that you're trying to achieve? and then often it'll be that, oh, well, there's this feature of Obvio that you would use for that, or whatever it is. Or you're thinking about the different tools and things like that. So, but I do get it. One of the things that we did a little while ago was a walkthrough. I've done walkthroughs before where we look at every feature of working through the whole menu system, and not necessarily explaining or going into depth on each one, but just an overview of what each feature does. And it felt like that was about 45 minutes. And so, that feels long. Then I did like a bare basics walkthrough of like from nothing to getting your event working. What does that take? And I did that in about 20 minutes. I think Blue did a version of that at about 30 minutes. And so the challenge is set, I think. There they go again, the birds. The challenge is set then for to do that in 10 minutes or a 5-minute version or something like that. And so that's the sort of stuff that I am interested in doing. We could plan to do something like that in the next few weeks. But yeah, we really do love these calls, because inevitably someone asks a question that you may not have ever thought of, and you're thinking about how it goes. So I think even case studies like the TVE event, the virtual event, which is starting tomorrow. If you're not going, I think it's always super worth going, because you're going to learn, if nothing else, you're going to learn how Obvio is being used almost to its full extent. But we can also get Blue to break that down after TVE and explain how he set up the dashboard and all the different features to talk that through. And so that's another thing that we can look at. All right, I've got a couple of questions, a couple of hands raised. I'm not sure how to say your name. Juanita?
Juanita.
Juanita,
Yeah.
of course.
Yes. So my question is, and I don't know whether this is possible, I would love to be able to see it from the production side during a live event. We see you, and I know during COVID, I could see it as an educator. It was different looking at it from my side, the production side, versus me looking at it from a viewer side. So I was just wondering if that is possible, that we could go through something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Do you know, one of the things I think about all the time is, and you hear me say this all the time, but it's like, what is it that only you can do it? Now I'm not trying to talk people out of doing production, right? I understand that people are in a position where often they don't have team, they don't have budget to pay for team to be able to do these things, and so you have to be able to do it yourself to start with. But there's a limit on that, right? And I think it's a different mindset to say that my plan as the host, as the person who's delivering the content, the one-man band type idea, I would always encourage people to be thinking about the next level and bringing team on, right? So what is it? What's the bare minimum that you can do to get to a place where you have people that manage that stuff for you? Because I could teach people how to run the production for a 10,000 person event. And we can go through all those details, and you can fill your brain with all of that. But is that really the best thing that you can be learning now to build out your your use case. It probably isn't. I think there's a particular, and it'll depend on how much you're charging, but there's a particular budget number that you can get to that then means that you can pay, a Muddy, a Justin, a me, or whoever to look after all that production for you. And you never need to learn how you run a large scale event production wise, because what is it that only you can do? When it comes to it, if you're the one that's delivering the content, only you can deliver the content, but anyone else can do the production for you, or the right people can do the production for you. The right people can support the event as far as how, so the team that support doing a help desk or answering emails or those sorts of things. So my challenge to people all the time is, what is the point at which you can continue to build your team? If you're currently a team of one, what's the bare minimum to get you to a team of two?
Mhm.
And then when you're a team of two, how do you get to a team of three? Right? It's a strategically, it's a totally different way of thinking. Because my other challenge to people is that I think that sometimes we use all of the production stuff and the technical as a distraction from doing the harder work of fine-tuning your content and building your community.
Mhm.
If that's what's key for you, is you're working out how you fine-tune your content, deliver it better, how you build your community, they're the things that only you can do. But we get distracted because it's more tangible to say, oh, how do I make Zoom work better? Or how do I do this? And those things are going to only move the needle a little bit. The biggest things that are going to move the needle the most is your content, your interaction with your community, the way that you connect with them. They're the things. Because at the end of the day, at the end of your event, the end of the challenge, the end of the hour-long session that you spend with people, they are not going to say, man, that graphic that they showed, the way they showed that graphic, that was life-changing. They're not going to say that, right? All of those things support it, and they definitely move the needle a bit. And they're the things that I think about when I'm running production. Is I'm thinking about what's the best music that we can play right now. What's the, there's those things in there that do make a difference. But when you're starting out, or you're still small enough where you've got a small group of people, the biggest difference is going to be the human interaction and that human touch and the way that you deliver your content, far more than any production tricks or things that you can do. And so it's not to correct you or anything in asking those questions about production. I'm very happy to talk about it.
Yes.
But to what level? Is that fair?
Yes.
What do you think when I'm preaching at you like this?
I totally agree with you, but I just want to be proficient so that when I teach my team, because I know I can't do both just from me doing Zoom in the past if I am focusing on teaching. So, but in order for me to teach my team, I want to make sure that I am proficient so that I can teach them.
Yeah, so that's an interesting take on it, and I guess I challenge that. Have a think about it like this: when you're leading a team, and I often use the idea of a pit crew that are changing out a car. They're changing the tires on a car and they're filling up the gas and whatever, right? It's just really easy to picture a team, and that when they're small scale, there's one person running around changing all the tires and they're pumping the gas and they're doing the thing, and it takes them 10 minutes, and then as that team builds, suddenly that 10 minutes now becomes a minute or 30 seconds or whatever. So my question for you is, the team leader of that pit crew, do they need to know all of the specifics of every one of those tasks in detail? And are they the ones that train each of those people in those tasks? Because I think a leader does not need to know the intimate details of all of those things. They don't need to learn from the leader. The leader needs to have an understanding of what everyone does, of every one of the roles. And I get that. They need to know what the general idea of what everything's doing. But you would employ, as in you would get people that are far better at that role than you are, which means they would know much more about how the function of that role is better than you do. So then the question is, who is the best person to train your team? And so do you have people then that train that other people that come in to train people? Do you get people and have them learn the role, or do you sometimes get people that have already know the role?
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm being far more philosophical than you expected, I'm sure. You just like, just tell me how to use Zoom so I can teach my team. I totally get it, but it's something that I think about.
Yes, I received
Go
the
ahead.
challenge, and now that you've added the pit crew to it, because I was, thinking, okay, I still need to know until you added the pit crew example. Now I see it the way that you see it. Mm-hmm. So yes, thank you.
Yeah, and then it's how do I get to that next level, and not constantly thinking that, but what's the optimal number of people in your team to execute the best event? And it's not just wasting money on paying people to do tasks. And perhaps in particular use cases, you may not want to scale larger than a certain number, and that there might be an optimal number of attendees. And I get that, which means that then there's an optimal number of team members and the key roles that are needed so that it feels efficient. There's something about it. I think this works whether it's in person or it's online. There's something about feeling like people know what they're doing and that this event is under control. And you get that. You get a sense of that is not just words. It's not just, not just music. It's not just slides. It's something that just transcends all of that lowers the anxiety and the stress and the whatever. People just feel like, I feel comfortable because this person really knows what they're doing and they are comfortable. We have all seen events online where the person delivering the event is stressed and is distracted, and that makes everyone feel uncomfortable. And I am always conscious about the phrase I always use is that it's not what people think, it's what they feel. So how do you want people to feel when they come to your event? You want them to feel relaxed, calm, and that they are being led and that in a way that they feel really comfortable. This is someone I can trust and I can follow even for this 1 hour. That's what they want to feel. And so what are the things that lead to that? And so these are all the questions. I'm a tech geek, but I'm constantly challenging myself about what is the question before we get to the tech. Why are we doing this? What is the feeling that I want people to have, so that they feel comfortable, and ultimately they're going to receive the content better. They're going to go on a journey better. They're going to connect as a community better. And ultimately they're probably going to sign up to whatever it is that you're offering, to continue doing more of that. So that means that if we can get it very practical down to what is the bare minimum that I need to know about how to use my Zoom setup, and how do I make it that I can access my slides or my whatever, where it's just, I could do it in my sleep. Like it's just second nature, that it's right there and I'm not having to, concern myself with anything else. And then when I want to scale beyond that, I'm going to have someone else that's doing that for me, or someone's advancing my slides for me. And I don't have to think about that, or whatever it is. They're the sorts of things that I think about. But I also take your point about just flip the camera a little bit. You know, when we're running these events, what does it look like? What am I looking at? What is Zoom as a host? You know, am I the host, and what controls am I seeing? What's ideal as a host, or as a starting out? You know, what does that look like? So, yeah. So anyway, I took that in a different place, but I take the point about, yeah, tell me what Obvio page should I have open during an event, or, you know, things like that. I get that. There's a little bit of a soapbox there. Is it something to chew on for a little bit? All right. Carol. Oh, you're muted.
Okay, kind of addressing what you were just talking about. I just had my first event and it was very bare bones. I knew it was going to be. I mean, I've done other Zoom befores, but I haven't done it in the context of a virtual event. And I learned a lot. I mean, one of the things I learned is that I really don't want to do it this way. I mean, the feeling was great, but it wasn't in the same way. So I know that you and Muddy and Justin do it. When do you feel is the best way? I've been thinking of doing an event at the end of April, the beginning of May. What is the time frame that you think is the best to hire a production team to start working with you?
That's a good question. Look, I think that the sooner that you engage, then the better, right? Because you can be talking about the optimal things to have in place. But really, like a couple of weeks out, you know, it is still possible, and you can talk through some things. But those pre-production meetings are very, very key. And pre-production work is key, right? Because lots of the things that we do, as in, I mean, people that are running events that do during an event, could be done or better prepared for before the event, right? How many times do we get there and we're like, oh, I meant to plan this, or I meant to build this thing out, or I meant to automate this email to go out, or I meant to, right? It happens every time, which means that the earlier you can start thinking about those things and be able to, let's schedule these 5 emails. Bang, that's done. That's just going to work automatically. You know, let's think about, we need these slides and graphics. I want to have all this. Okay, that's all created. That's all ready. What's the music? Are we going to play music? Okay. What is the music we're going to play? Okay. What's our backup strategies for, you know, we lose Carol. What do we do? Who takes over? You know, so thinking through all of those things is really key. And the more time you have for that, the better, if it's structured. But yeah, to answer the question, I think as soon as you can is a great way to do it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. How did your event go? You said it was bare bones, but
My event was great. I mean, it was great in that I've done the content many times, so I certainly know how to do the content, but I mean, I knew what was missing. You know, the girl that was helping me didn't play the music the way I wanted it. It was like she didn't, but I felt responsible myself because, you know, it was just what it is to have something that's flawless, or I don't know if anything is ever flawless, but the way that it was. And there are people that are signing on to work with me. So it was, that was, there as well. But I knew, certainly watching. I mean, and obviously Barry and Blue and you were in a whole other thing, but you never be able to achieve it, unless I start to take the steps to really look at what it will be in my own version of how to do something like that. So
makes a lot of sense. And that's the thing, is you've got to get the reps in, you just got to actually do the work and just make it happen. And you learn each time. the thing I think about, particularly with team, and it's a great example you're talking about, didn't play the the music at the right time, or not the right music, or whatever, is ideally you feel supported by team, you feel backed up, you feel lifted up, like, and you feel like you're able to do your thing, and then they come in with their thing, and and the best way to make sure that works well is rehearsals. Rehearsals work.
We had no rehearsals.
Right. And most people don't. Most people don't. Like they, as in, most people are like, yeah, I know how to do this, and away I go. But whenever you do rehearsals, you iron out those little bugs, and you realize, oh, actually, I can't go from that to that. I have to go through this. Or is this song okay? Yes. Okay, great. So now when the show comes and you hear that song, you're like, okay, everything's working, and the trains are all running on time,
Yeah.
and so they're often a rehearsal can be less about the content and more about the processes that are required to just make all of it work. And that means that everyone's thinking about how this works, and you have a couple of people that are just acting as attendees, and they can be giving feedback about how that looks, and you make some adjustments, and then you roll it again, and you go again, and then it's like, okay, now we're really getting this sense, as particularly when the outcome is the feeling of the people that are attending your event, so that inevitably the music didn't play at the right time, or it was the wrong song, or whatever, you will show, like, you'll make a face, or you'll be like, oh no, that's not the right one, and the show just takes a shift, right? Like the energy of that event just changed. Whereas when things just happen without you talking about it, has that energy is just like, oh, this is calm, this is thought through, like this, I just feel like this is controlled really well, and I want more of what this person does, because they know how to operate this stuff, they know what they're doing. That's the general feeling you want people to have, so you have a spirit of excellence, that you're man, I've heard this before, this phrase is like, we won't see perfection this side of heaven, but excellence is being better week to week, or day to day, and it's always having a spirit of excellence that's now going to go, okay, we've done that one, here's the 3 things we want to work on, or here's the one key thing we want to work on for next time to make that better. They're the things I think about.
But one of the things I did learn, and Barry addressed it, I'd like to make it shorter. One of the days went 6 hours, and people did say that the time went fast, but I think I feel that I had to do this, but I felt that I could deliver the material in less time, and it would be a little less wear and tear on me also. That I feel that I could have had the same outcome and just, trim it a bit.
Yeah, and they're the finer adjustments that you make, right? Like that you think, actually, I think it's better for me, which means it'll be better for the attendees. The other thing to think about is that can you break it up a little bit, and can you have something else that is you have a guest speaker, a guest performer, something else that just breaks it up a little bit, because I mean, it's unfair to use Tony Robbins as an example sometimes, because there's only one Tony Robbins in the world. But some of those days go for 14, 15 hours. And look, no one else is going to do that. My point is that it is possible to maintain people's energy level, their attention level, all of that, for as long as you want to do it. Now it's finely crafted, the content and the process, and they get everyone up and dancing and all that sort of stuff. And I'm assuming that you're not getting everyone up and dancing. But there are certain things that you can break up the content, and that can work really well. And ultimately, what I want from an event is I want a feeling of that there is no there's no limit on time or space. This idea that if you are to compress the time and say, look, we're going to do this in 4 hours, people will immediately start thinking, oh, what am I doing after this is finished? Right. And they start to get sort of distracted with, what's going to happen next, and what am I going to cook for dinner, and what am I, whatever it is. Right. Oh, I can go out and do this. There's something that happens when people allocate or just clear time, particularly when we would come in person, right? They'd be like, I got to go to this place and I'm doing nothing else but this event for 3 days. And there's a freedom that's found in that, because I'm just going to do it, and it's going to go all day. And then I'm going to go out to dinner with people that are there, and that's it. I'm not really going to be checking emails. I'm not going to be, having to drive the kids around or whatever it is that they have to fit into their life. And I think what happens with online events often is that we don't allocate the same amount of time, and we don't create that same freedom. But the events that I see that work really well are the ones that don't say really what time it finishes, or it's loose. And it really is the whole day. Don't plan anything else. In the preparation that you're sending out for people, we want you to dedicate your time to this, so that we go on a journey together, we learn a whole bunch of things together, and create that space, both physically and mentally, to be able to go on this journey. So that if sometimes you want this feeling of like spontaneity that happened at your event, and it's like, wow, the questions that we've just received, have taken us on a little journey for 20 minutes or half an hour that I wasn't anticipating. And everyone will feel like it's a dynamic thing that's happened, rather than, okay, this is content that she's been teaching for many, many years, and we're just going through the motions. No, there's something dynamic that's happening as we're doing this live. Otherwise, make some recordings and make it available and move on, right? No, we're doing something that is being created now. This is happening between us. And we're learning together, and we're hearing these questions, and and something new and exciting is happening. And we're not being kicked out of the ballroom, and we don't need to rush off to the banquet, or some food that's been prepared for us all. Go grab a snack if you want, but come back, and we're just going to go on this journey together. So see how it's kind of there's still a middle ground. And I think you're always going to tweak your content and tidy it up and make it more efficient and effective. And, that should always be happening. But it doesn't necessarily mean that your day has to be shorter. And maybe it does, but having that experience, people have dedicated this time. So let's do that. And that feels different.
Yeah, I actually like what you say about being on a journey together. I mean, it is true that it was a long day. It did that experience. And the other thing that I felt was, even though I have delivered the content before, the participation of the group kind of was I don't know, it kind of magnetized the content and brought it to another level, because they participated in it and there was another energy that was involved by the end.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I really love that. And we've talked about a couple of little things that can happen. One is on some of our events, when we have a break, sometimes we'll go into breakout rooms for the break, right? So, okay, we're going to take a 20-minute break now. We're going to put you into breakout rooms because some of you have got your drink and snack with you, and you'd love to just sit around and chat with people. because it's what would happen in person, right? Like if they have a half an hour break, the introverts are going to dart out of that room, and they're not hanging around. But the in between and the extroverts are going to hang around, and they might sit in groups of 3 or 4 and just chat. And that can be really cool for a little lunch break, 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And where they are able to, we're going to say, go for the 20 minutes. If you want to, fine, disappear, fine. But if you want to, there's going to be a few people you can sit around and chat with. Whereas if you leave everyone in the main meeting and there's 30 people, 50 people, whatever it is, 100 people, they're not really going to talk. You don't get a discussion going with 100 people. But you will get a discussion going with 5 or 6 people. And even if just a pair get a good discussion going, that was a discussion that they weren't going to have. That wasn't going to happen. And they're the sorts of things that we create. The other thing quickly is just the idea, I call it the virtual parking lot, which is the end of your event or end of the day. Instead of kicking everyone out of Zoom, you can say, hey, we're just going to have a few breakout rooms open. If you want to hang around, chat with people. We've set up, have people got a few topics that they'd like to talk about? Yeah. I want to talk about cars. I want to talk about basketball. I want to talk about football. Great. We've created breakout rooms called basketball, football, cars. And now you can choose, you teach everyone how they can choose to go into their own breakout rooms, and they go out and they hang out. And inevitably, people hang around for an hour or 2 after their event, and they would come back the next day if it's the next day, and they say that was amazing, because that was a time where I was just sort of debriefing with people and talking about what I found out, and that is so easy to do. There's no real organization other than just having a Zoom host that's just keeping an eye on things. In the same way that you never really worry about people out in the foyer or out in the parking lot, you're not monitoring their conversation, whatever goes, and that creates amazing community. And that was easy to do. And they're like, I'm definitely coming back to that event because I met these 5 people and we discovered all these things. So see how you can get tighter on your content and then create these, breathing moments, where it's like you're breathing in, you're breathing out, you're like, there's this ebb and flow of how your event works. So that there's a sense, sometimes we try to rush it because we think that's what people want. And we've got to be really careful to not say people's no for them. Would you like this day to go 7 hours or 6 hours? Would you like it to be extended? No. You assuming that they're saying no. Meanwhile, they're going, I love every bit of this thing. I would love it to keep going, And so it's creating those opportunities. Sorry, everyone, we haven't spoken a lot about Obvio today, and I'm on a bit of a soapbox, but I am really passionate about virtual events because I think it serves a purpose that is different and better than certain in-person events. And there's some of these things that I think make a big difference.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Congrats on having your event done and, learning from it and locking in the next one. It's really cool. Thad, how are you, dude?
And I can unmute myself. Thank you. I
You're
don't
welcome.
know if you all understand who you are actually talking to. I have been with this group since the beginning. You are talking to the other half of the biggest brainchild in the world. That last week, Tony Robbins spent over 1 million some people on a global call with his system, and it worked flawlessly, and it booked everybody in, and it did everything. You have no idea. I'm a super tech guy, broadcaster, everything, but all I have to tell you is you could not be in the best technology place anywhere else in the world with what's available and the minimal cost that you get in and are able to do this. I'm sorry, but thank you, Grant, for everything. The millions of hours and nights you put into all this, it's really been struggling. But if you learn the background about all this and how it works and everything it can do, it's so powerful. And like he said, if you can create that, you're creating that unique community that's your own. And once they start going, it goes nuts. I mean, like when Tony did his stuff, those rooms would take off and they had a Blue Room East 1, Blue Room 2, East 2, and 4, and 10, and they were all competing against each other. I mean, it's just like Nutsville, the power that people can do. And then they all get together as a group afterwards and they share stuff, and they even some of them even meet up once a year just because they had a great experience in your group. And you can't even buy that in a convention, and you'd never get the chance to. I mean, like today we're talking to Grant, the brainchild of this technology, and you're talking right with him and he's answering, and you're able to get questions to him. This is like you're able to talk to Tony Robbins like right now and ask a question, which a lot of people are able to do on something. You'd sit in line for 10-15 hours to do that for one question. I mean, you have no idea. I worked with Tony years ago, back in the days when he first came out with the old video cassette tapes and stuff. And I tell you, to see the power of how all this goes together, and just happy to be a part of all this, and the Avio, and especially with Blue being able to be in on everything, and how this marketing, this awesome marketing tool is out there. And there is nothing like it out there. You could book something that, oh, well, I need to book my event and I need to spend $4,000 to get all the people registered and get everything I need and everything, blah, blah, blah. And it's like Avio does all this stuff for you. It's all built in. It's all seamless. It punches in, and they have great customer help. I didn't mean to do a whole promo on this, but when I get a chance to talk to Grant, I'm sorry, but I can't thank you enough. It's super awesome. And keep up all the hard work and great program. So I can't wait to,
Awesome.
will you guys be spilling any more beans on how big Tony's was and how big the system was that you ran? Or can you give us a little bit?
Yeah, it's a little bit tricky. There's some IP, that is really the clients, that are doing some of this stuff. I mean, the main thing, I guess, to know is that, a lot of the bulk of the people that attended Tony's free event were live streaming, right? They weren't all in Zoom, right? But there was a large number that were in Zoom, that worked really well, and so that it's an interesting use case, to see. What I was interested in actually was looking at where people were. So there was a lot on YouTube. There was some on TikTok. There was some on LinkedIn even, and quite a lot on Instagram. And there was Facebook and things are going as well, but there wasn't a lot there. The bulk were in YouTube, and then so people had to pay to be able to get into Zoom, and so then they got extra Q&A time and things like that. So it's an interesting study, which is essentially the challenge model, right? Where it's a couple hours a day, for a few days, and then you're selling more of of an event. But from a tech point of view, I mean, it worked really well, and people have the dashboard access to get into Zoom, but also the extra resources and things that were available there as well. So extra links and things. So, yeah, it's been an interesting journey with some of the larger events that we run on Obvio to see how they're being run. But yeah, I mean, thanks for the prop up. It's very nice.
Well, I'm just saying, so when you get your build your programs, you're on the same platform that one of the biggest leaders in the world is on. You're on the same thing. It's not like it's gonna fail. It's not like this is a little one-off thing or something like that. So, well,
Yeah.
thanks again so much, Grant, for all your hard work.
Muddy's touching wood. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and thank you. Yeah, and it is always comforting that, you know, to bring us back to the pit crew analogy again before, when we're thinking about Formula One. You know, Formula One is an opportunity for these big motor companies to be testing these sorts of technologies that are years ahead of where the sort of general commercial available vehicles are, right? It's the Formula One process of like testing these things. That's the way that I think of someone like Tony Robbins running events on Obvio, is that we are testing, you know, not that it's a test case, but when we know that an event with 30,000 people in Zoom is working great, then we're very comfortable with your event of 1,000 people or 100 people or 20 people. It's going to be fine, you know, and that's not condescending in any way. Honestly, it's like if it's not only that we know that 35,000 can work, what it also means is that we know that we can have 100 people running their event of 100 people, you know, those sorts of things. It's like we know the system's all working well for that. So that's the way we sometimes think about it. So thank you. Yeah, great discussion. I think we've got another question, Heather. Got a question that came in.
Yeah, we actually have two. So Kevin said that he would it would be nice to have a walkthrough or a demo of a checklist when opening an event in Obvio. This might be more towards for what you were talking about when you're doing the demos on future calls.
That's right. Yeah, I'm going to plan for yeah, I'm out of state next week. But the week after, I'll definitely we're thinking about how we create some documentation around that as well. So not just a walkthrough video, but also just a bit of a checklist that you could pull up and step through it yourself. So that's something that I'm working on. So I won't try to just do it off the cuff now. I think that'll be better done with a bit of preparation. It'll be quicker, more efficient. But yes, that's good. I'm glad that that's wanted. So
And then
there's another question.
So had one from Amanda. She wants to know if there is a way to send an attendee a direct link to join the Zoom instead of having them go through the dashboard.
And who was that? Sorry.
It's me, Amanda.
Amanda. Hey, Amanda. Sweet. I was like looking at all the faces. I couldn't see who spoke. It's me. Yeah. Which me? Yes. So there is a thing that we should have a better name for, but what I'll show you is it's a registration link, and what we kind of a term is like a stage door access, right? Like how can I bypass the dashboard and just get straight into Zoom? And the reason that we have it is for people like speakers, right? Someone who's just coming for your event and they're just coming for a time slot. They don't need access to resources and they don't need any of that. They don't need your dashboard. They just want a link to get you, them straight into where they need to be. So let me share here and I'll just show you what that looks like, where you find it. Okay. So when you go to Zoom areas, you have the different areas. This is the event that we're running right now, right? So in main stage, we've got 13 people. I'm just going to look at a test area. So what we have is this this page is the area, and it has one Zoom meeting here. So that gets created automatically. What happens is if we click on the one, we're going to get now some of this extra content you're seeing here is enterprise plan only. So just ignore the second half there. But we're looking at the Zoom meeting itself, and this is where we can open it, start it. But there's this thing called registration enabled. Right? When we click that, this is the link you can use. Right? So this link you can send to people like your speakers or team members or, whoever needs to get in without having dashboard access. And what that looks like is this, branded in the way that you've got your brand set up for the event. So you put all your logos and whatever, and then they just need to put in first, last, and email, join room, and that will launch Zoom and bring them straight in. And so the big advantage of that is people not getting lost. You need them just to get straight in. So if you're thinking for all attendees, then yes, you can still use that, and depending on your use case, that might work well. Just remember that one of the things about this use case is that when you've got I'll just talk about this. So I'm back at the area level. There's a thing here called open area. If we look at my main stage one here, you can see we've got 13 people in this meeting at the moment that we're in. What we have here is open area. If I toggle that, it will take the area offline, which means that when people on the dashboard, if they were to click the button like you all did to get in here, join the call. If I took that offline, when you click this button, it would take them to the offline page, and you can customize that offline page. And what's great about that is that when you're doing your event, you can start the meeting, get everything all ready, have Zoom going, but not have any attendees come in because you have it toggled to, you've closed the area, right? Now, when you give out links directly to the meeting, once the meeting's open, once it's started, and Zoom started, people can join. There's no way really to stop that. Now, of course, you could use the built-in waiting room in Zoom, and that could serve your purpose. But we really like the offline page because we can customize that however we want, and we can say, come back at X time when we'll open the room, and those sorts of things that makes a better experience. So you're missing out on that function there if you're giving direct access to those rooms, which for a speaker or that sort of thing is fine. You might have a speaker that's coming to your event and they're starting the first session of the day, and so you want them to come in 30 minutes before you open it for everyone else, so you can do a quick tech check with them, make sure everything's working, and I can see your slides or whatever they're doing. You do all that before you're letting attendees in. But your attendees, you might want them to go through a dashboard. And so it's just something to think about. We have those different functions there, but the dashboard really there's a couple of things that I think about with the dashboard. One is that it separates your event from just another Zoom meeting, right? Like it's not just another Zoom link that comes into your inbox and you click it and now we're in Zoom again. It's something a little bit different. Now we've got some nice pictures and some downloads and some videos and some things that are like, okay, here's a place, a home for my event before the event starts. During the event, they might need to access something. get a workbook or something. And then after the event, come back to it after the event, and you've still got all of this content here and bits and pieces that support your event. So before, during, and after is a home for your event. So that's something to think about. So I was assuming things and sort of broadening it just than what you were asking about, Amanda. But does that answer what you were thinking about?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Like, thanks for showing me how to do the direct link through that registration link.
Yeah.
And then for the rest, I have some pressure from my boss because sometimes we just have some people that are very tech challenged, and even though they're coming every week, are having a really hard time figuring out the whole dashboard thing. And it was just like unavoidable but it's every week. And then they're complaining that I get taken to a login page. So maybe there's some other toggle you can help me with, but or to I'm not with them, so I can't figure out exactly what they're doing that's causing the problem. So it's hard for me to advise. To me, it seems easy enough, but that's the reason why I'm asking. Is like, if I could have a direct link, I could solve certain issues for certain people one off.
Yeah, I totally get it, and of course I've had those same experiences. And do you know what's tricky always with tech support is that you are on the lookout for a large scale issue, and you always are, right? Like, you get an email from someone that says I can't get in, immediately you're thinking, okay, I can't get in, does that mean no one can get in? Does that mean something's broken? Does that mean and I think that's the correct way of thinking. And I think that some IT support people will often think the other way around, and they just assume that it's on that person, it's their fault, like they're doing something wrong. But I think the correct approach is to be going from the widest problem down to the to the more specific problem with that person. Yeah, you still have a problem. Yeah, exactly. And so and I totally get you when it's like, you just show me your screen, or like just show me like what is it that you can't see. Go to the dashboard, you see the button there, click that big button, and then that's it. You're in Zoom. So tell me, do you send the login link, like a unique link, to all of the attendees? Is that what
I do? Yeah. So we just switched customer resource management software. We went from HubSpot to High Level, but I was sending it through HubSpot. There I had a little bit of an issue, as in, like, it gives you a link, but it's just text. And so for a lot of people, unless their email sort of magically turns it into a link, they can't actually click on it. And so that's been frustrating for some people, because they're telling me there's no link in the email, and I'm like, well, there is a link, but it's not quite a link. Yeah. So I started sending emails through the Obvio dashboard, which I think are probably better in that regard. But yes, I send everybody their own unique login link.
Great. Yep. Yeah, great. And so as long as you've got that password step turned off, and the what I'm talking about in the check-in process.
Yeah,
as long as
I think
all
I
of
have all
that
those disabled. Yeah.
Great. Perfect. Yeah. So it should go straight to the dashboard. One of the things is thinking about is the button really clear on the dashboard? That is. Do you know, we did an event once, and we had 16 languages, different languages that were joining. It's a huge event, and we literally had we were thinking about, well, how are we going to do? What are we going to do with all the terminology and words and whatever? And the client decided, can we just do a play button? Can we just have one button, and it's a play symbol? There is no words. There's no language. There was a play symbol. And that's what we did. So you went to the dashboard, there's one button. play, and it went to Zoom, and so sometimes, like making it super simple can help. Now we do know that sometimes the workflow for people can be slightly different after they click that button. If Zoom needs to update, for example, that can throw people in a bit of a spin where they might go through the update, but once the update's complete, it won't then just suddenly join your meeting. You have to go back to the dashboard and click, and then it will join, right? Once it's done the update. Another thing is if they don't have Zoom installed, then there's this extra step again, and then they need to go back to the dashboard and make that work. Then if this could be the case too, that when you're talking about when the URL is not clickable and people need to copy and paste it, if they copy it and not quite all of it, or if they, they've got an extra space, or they, something, it's got to be exact. If it's not exact, if they've missed a letter off of the address, it's going to take them to a login screen, right? Because it's not going to know who that person is, and it's going to take them as if they went without the token that knows who they are. So that's another thing that happens. And so there's some of the things that we know, but I still feel pretty confident that, and you may want to go down the registration link and knock yourself out, do whatever works. One of the things that will happen is that people will have to enter their first name, last name, and email each time, right, to join, which is a little bit of extra friction. It's not too bad, but it's a little bit, versus that login link that should take them straight in, and then they've still got to press the button. But so it depends on what you're offering on the dashboard and whether it, has a lot of value or it's not a big deal and, you can do without it. Sometimes, another thing that we have used for support is a live chat plugin, so that people get to a dashboard and then there's a little, chat now button down the bottom, and they can talk to someone, typing to someone. That can be really helpful. We find that. So just talk through that a little bit. We don't offer a live chat system. We just have the ability to embed one. And so one that I use, Blue uses, is livechat.com. That's one that we've used. I'll just show you as an example just what this looks like. Because often thinking about how do people get support outside of Zoom, sometimes we might have an extra room called Zoom help desk, right? So on the dashboard, main stage, another button, help desk. And then you just have a team member sitting in a Zoom meeting, and they come in and they say, I can't get this to work, or whatever. I think that's a great strategy if you've got the team. That can be really helpful. Although sometimes they can't get Zoom to work. And so a help desk is no help if you can't get the Zoom to work. So often that help desk is kind of like the registration desk outside of a ballroom. Sometimes you just need to know where the bathrooms are, or you need, right? You need some extra help that's nothing to do with technical help. So I like the idea of help desk, but it serves a slightly different purpose. Help desk here.
Is that fresh?
Yeah, it's not too bad. Thank you. So this is just a little, live chat, which is powered by text. They do a whole thing with help desk, helpdesk.com. We use that for our support system, and that's tickets, ticket system. So having an email strategy that people can email you, and depending on how many people you've got, how many attendees it is, and how many people you're trying to service, having a ticket system could be really helpful, because it means that multiple team members can manage it. But this is just a little live chat button, and the way that it works in Obvio I wonder if it's got one. Don't know that it's running on TVE, but the way that it can work in here is that you'll get an embed code, which is just a bunch of code that you can embed, and it can often sit right in here, right down the bottom, embed HTML. You put that in there, and now a little chat, if it's all working, a little chat symbol pops up, and now when they're on the dashboard, they can get help. What we also added was this embed called scripts, right? Which scripts is the ability to do the same thing, embed the embed code, but choose which pages you wanted it to appear on. The advantage of this is that you can have a live chat on your login page, right? That's not before they've even got to the dashboard. They're getting help. Now we created this option because on some events, believe it or not, some large events, we don't want chat available on the login screen, because you can have, literally thousands of people that are just trying to access the event, and they're clogging up the support system. So sometimes you do want it on the login screen, sometimes you don't want it on the login screen. For smaller events, you may want it on the login screen. They've copied the link incorrectly, something's gone wrong, whatever it is, they're at the login screen. And just so let me think if I can show what the login screen looks like. I think I'll be logged in. Oh, there you go. So this is the login screen, for this event. Now we've got a little script that forwarded from the login screen takes them to the sign up page. What that means then for a free event, if for some reason people have gotten to the login screen, we just push them to the sign up page, which means now they can just put their first name, last name, email, and they'll go straight in. It's a bit of a hack, but it does work. And that's what the script is. It's literally forwarding.
Yeah.
Is that of interest to you?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, let me copy that, and I'll put it in the chat for you, and then you can. So what you'll do is you'll just create, you call it whatever, redirect. You just put that code in. You only want it on the login screen. You want to be careful of that so that it's not, forwarding people from the dashboard to the login, or to the sign up, that sort of thing. You'll get an endless loop. So you just want it on login, add specific pages. That's it. And I'll put that in the chat for you. Yeah, so particularly when it's a free event, at least then they'll get in. And the advantage too with that sign up page is that even if they are already an attendee in your event and they put the same first name, last name, and email in the sign up page, it will take them in. It will, and they could keep going back to that sign up page, and it will still go back to the dashboard for them, for that person. So it checks to see if they already exist. If they do, then it'll take them in. If they don't exist, it creates them, and away it goes. So this is all particularly about free events, or free events or obscure events, where people wouldn't just stumble across it and end up at your event. So there's a couple of little tips there, but the live chat is really helpful. And I know it's another thing that people need to know, and some people that are tech challenged may not even think to click a help me button or something, but some people do, and it helps them. So that there's a couple of little tips there. But as I said, the registration link might work perfect for you, and they need to bypass the dashboard, and it's fine.
Yeah, thank you for all that. That's super helpful. I got lots of little things to hopefully streamline the experience.
Yeah, that's the thing with us working on some of these bigger events is you tend to get all the different responses that that can happen, and we think larger events, even a couple 300 people or whatever, we tend to have someone who is on support, and they're just there making sure people are getting in. Inevitably there's an incorrect email. Like sometimes having multiple forms of communication, I think, is really important. And so capturing people's phone number, not everyone wants to do that. If you do, though, it means that there's just another way of getting to them if their email's not working, or for some reason it's always going to spam. They don't know how to find their spam folder, or they had it incorrect or something like that. It's nice having another way for you to be able to communicate with them, and then multiple ways for them to be able to communicate with you. I think makes the whole process better. So all the best for that. Cool. Hey, Muddy, in South Carolina.
I'm in the motherland. Yes. I was at Sage HQ today, and
Nice.
actually this is my first call with the Insta360 Link 2. So just
right.
Just trying the new
Looks terrible. No, joking.
And I also just got the tiny little Lark Hollyland Lark
Oh yeah.
M2S. So this is one that is essentially, actually, let me grab it because it's right here, and it's really neat because the way that it works is a little bit unique.
Get to geek out a little bit. The camera looks great. I think it's popped up.
So first of all, the microphone is tiny. This little, I mean, in the palm of my hand, it's nothing. Is the case for this, and the microphones are itty bitty, and they're
cool.
2 parts. It clips over your shirt, and so the part that's visible is very tiny and has no branding at all, right? And if I had a black shirt on, you would never see it. And then the version I got is the combo version that has a direct USB-C that'll plug right into your phone, and a little, they call it the camera adapter, but it has a USB-C on the side, so you can plug directly into the computer for a digital signal. And it has a mic jack, so you could
use a cable to do that now
with an aux cable.
Have you got a little USB-C cable or something?
Yeah, sure, I have plenty. Let me
I'm interested to hear how it sounds.
Yeah, let me grab one. I'll be right back.
Nice. All these live demos. Heather, any other questions while we're waiting?
Yeah, Juanito was just wondering what you've noticed about the regions of the world participating tech-wise.
Oh, that's interesting. I don't know that I have anything concrete observations. I think what I've learned over the time is that I can't judge the tech by the country. The more I learn, the less I find, meaning that I've had people there's some people I've seen in islands, little islands, in these little Pacific islands, and there's some like Guam, and there's different places that I've seen people come in, and they are as rock solid as anyone else. Full HD, great sound, everything's all wonderful. And then I've had people in major capital cities or major cities in the US that have terrible systems, and they can't get internet to work, and they've got all sorts of problems. And so I don't have general observations about countries, but it is one of the things that I love about online events is that when you cast the net wide, people people from all over the world can join, and it's just amazing if they follow the same type of thing. Now, obviously, there's some areas and countries that don't have as good an internet infrastructure as others. But there's lots of exceptions, and things like Starlink that's going around the world now, and more and more countries are have the administration infrastructure to allow people to sign up for it now. Means that almost anywhere in the world now people can have a great connection using Starlink.
All right, coming in with a quick audio test here because I gotta.
Oh, there we go.
Folks for dinner. So this is what you're hearing now is the Hollyland Lark M2S, and it shows up on the computer as just wireless, microphone. So that's what's selected. Yeah. And as a way to kind of demonstrate that that's the mic you're hearing, as I back up, my audio should be the same. You shouldn't hear any difference with me kind of walking across the room and then back. So how's it sound?
Sounds great.
Nice.
It's really good.
Good.
It's it's probably a little chesty where it is all I would say.
Yeah.
A little bottom heavy, but apart from that, it's amazing. And that's
and it's really designed because it's this kind of fold over design. The previous generation, actually, it's still a viable product. The Lark M2 is a little round mic that has a magnet on the back, right? So you can kind of put it wherever you want and use the magnet. Because this has this fold over design, it really only works at the top of a shirt, or in this case, I have a button down shirt, I can put it down. So it would be more throaty. It would be up a little higher in most use cases. And because I'm here in Charleston for TVE 9, part of what I wanted to do, part of the reason I have the Instant 360 Link 2 and this new mic is to help demonstrate and have some kind of show and tell toys available for other leapers that are in person to kind of see what a step up, but not a huge step up, right? So this is a $200 webcam, $150 microphone that's going to give you great results. And it's a huge step up from built-in camera, built-in webcam, built-in mic, but we're not talking $1,000 camera, $500 mic. So it's kind of one step up. So cool.
Awesome. That's really
I'm going to
cool,
switch
Matty.
over to my phone and listen in as I'm driving on to meet some folks. Thanks for letting me pop in and do a little bit.
Thank you, dude. Yeah, it looks great. The camera looks great. I'm impressed, and it sounded good. It's a perfect example of how to make it work well. Sweet. Heather, anything else?
We don't have anything else in the forum section.
All right. Cool. Well, I'm glad that everyone was able to join and hear me talk about Obvio for about 10 minutes and then talk about all of my musings about how we do online events for an hour and a half. So thank you for hanging around. You can join us again next week. Not sure quite how and if I'm making all that work, but we should have Blue around if not. And good. Heather, you're around one more week?
No.
Oh, that's it. This is it.
Yep.
Well,
you'll have to find your own questions in the forum section now.
Yeah, that's right. Heather's going full-time nursing, which is what you've been working towards for some time now, right?
Yeah. It's been a few years of school, but finally did it.
You did it. And you're doing outpatient care, is that right?
Yes. So I have weekends off and holidays, which is awesome.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
That's all. So it's all like post-op stuff, right?
Yeah, I'm going to be in a vascular center, so it's people mainly with issues with their veins. Sorry, my cat just knocked down a bunch of stuff.
Well, that's cool. Heather's still gonna, because she can't live her life without having a little bit of Obvio in it, and so she'll be around, but just not on our calls anymore. So thank you for quarterbacking this whole thing for some time, and all the best for that new job.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Thank you, everyone. Join us next week, 5 p.m. Eastern, and hit us up. You can send emails at help@obv.io anytime you like, and we can try to help you there. Awesome. See you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye-bye.